In case you haven't noticed, Lunaris Academy only accepts the rich, the brilliant, and the well-connected. The Sterlings may be new money, but when Hazel first applied, she got rejected. Can you imagine how embarrassing that was? Even as an elite, she didn't make the cut. Now the rumor is her parents basically bought her a scholarship just to get her in. Then you show up, first day, and land in the top 20-something no one else has ever done. Hazel thinks she would have done even better than you, especially if she'd had that run-in with Griffin. Wow, I knew she liked getting choked by Griffin. Tell her she won't miss the next opportunity if she hangs around me, Violet replied sarcastically. Secretly, though, Violet knew that with her current plans, getting choked by Griffin might be the least of her worries. Trouble always seemed to find her. That is, if she even stayed at Lunerys. She planned to talk to Principal Jameson about canceling her scholarship if she could find a free moment between classes. The schedule was crazy. Alice sighed, realizing she wouldn't get any sympathy from Violet. But she wasn't giving up. Under Violet's tough exterior, she sensed a softer side. Violet just hid it well. Getting to the dining hall was another long trek. It was closer to the main school building than the dorms. Even though West House had a vending machine, Violet decided to take full advantage of the dining hall. Alice rushed ahead to hold the door open, dramatically sweeping her arm. "Welcome to the Platinum Court, my lady." Violet stopped, raising an eyebrow. "Platinum Court?" "That's what us Lunaris kids call the dining hall," Alice winked. "You'll see why when you get inside." Violet didn't have time to question Alice's over-the-top description. There was already a line of students behind them, grumbling for them to move. Alice held the door open a little too long, letting it swing shut almost in the next student's face. The kid swore under his breath while Alice just grinned, not sorry at all. Violet shook her head. Alice could be such a goofball. But then she stepped inside and froze, taking in the dining hall. Okay, Alice hadn't been exaggerating about the Platinum Court. This place was seriously impressive. The Lunaris Academy cafeteria was huge and fancy, just like everything else at the school. Golden sunlight streamed through giant arched windows, lighting up the cream and gold walls. The marble floor was so shiny it looked like a mirror, reflecting the chandeliers sparkling overhead. The whole place felt super luxurious, but that's where the nice part ended. Underneath all the fancy decorations was a strict social order. Downstairs, rows of polished mahogany tables were for the regular students, humans and lower-ranked werewolves who hadn't made a name for themselves yet. Compared to Violet's old school, this was pretty swanky, but their silverware and plates were plain and simple, nothing special. This section was also super noisy and crowded, with everyone crammed together and teachers and older kids watching them like hawks. Even here, there was a divide. Humans sat on one side, werewolves on the other, though some kids mixed together. But both groups were at the bottom of the totem pole. From downstairs, you could see where the real VIPs sat. A fancy staircase with gold-trimmed railings curved up to a raised platform. The elite section, just for the top students. They sat in comfy individual chairs around small tables with velvet tablecloths, eating off fancy china with real silver. They acted like they were too cool for school, looking down at the regular kids sometimes with smug grins or sneers. The noise downstairs didn't bother them at all. They were way too important for that. Right in the middle of the elite section were 4 special chairs, bigger and fancier than the rest. They were made of dark wood with the school's logo in gold on the back. Even without Alice saying anything, Violet knew those were for the Cardinal Alphas. Nobody, not even the top 20 students, dared sit there. It was like an unspoken rule. Those chairs were a symbol of who ran the school, and everyone looked at them with a mix of awe, fear, and respect. Violet had been impressed at first, but now she was frowning. A place meant for eating had become a way to show off who was better than who. Every time you looked up or down, you were reminded of who had power and who didn't. The whole thing felt suffocating. This place was a social minefield. Violet watched the scene unfold in the cafeteria, a knot forming in her stomach. Everyone was so obsessed with status and power. While some kids might think she was lucky to have scored so high in the rankings, seeing this whole setup made her realize it was more like a curse. Being at the top didn't feel like a win. It felt like a trap. Absolute power corrupts, and Violet knew that if she kept playing this game, it was only a matter of time before she became just another cog in the Lunaris Academy machine, just as bad as everyone else. Violet and Alice stood in the breakfast line. Alice chattered away, oblivious to the fact that Violet's mind was miles away. From her spot, Violet could only see part of the 4 thrones, as she'd started calling them, but their presence was heavy, and she was incredibly relieved they were empty. After last night's weird dream with Asher, she wasn't sure she could handle seeing any of the Cardinal Alphas, especially Griffin. Turns out, they weren't just intense, they were full of themselves, too. Who needed thrones in a school cafeteria? Them, apparently. Like they were the kings of Lunaris Academy or something. At least there wasn't a self-proclaimed queen. Violet would have lost it completely. She could see the elite students upstairs, mostly girls, acting all superior. While everyone else downstairs was getting their own food, Violet noticed some kids actually serving the elites. She remembered Alice saying she wanted to be Violet's lackey. Was this what she meant? This school was seriously messing with Violet's head. Earth to Violet! Alice snapped her fingers in front of Violet's face. The line's moving. Violet realized she'd zoned out and left a gap between herself and Alice, causing some grumbling from the people behind her. She saw someone try to cut in, but she quickly closed the gap, giving the kid a death stare. He muttered something under his breath, but she ignored him. She was not in the mood for drama. Then, out of nowhere, some girl just waltzed past the entire line, right to the front. She grabbed a plate and started piling on food from the buffet like she owned the place. Violet waited for someone to say something, anything. But nope, everyone just acted like this was totally normal. Why aren't they doing anything? Violet asked, confused. Be quiet, Alice hissed, her eyes wide. Seriously, why? Violet whispered fiercely. I space out for a second. And these jerks behind me, she gestured to the impatient students, try to cut in line, but she just comes in and takes whatever she wants and nobody cares. That's because it's Hope, Alice said, like that explained everything. So, who is Hope? Oh my God, Violet, keep your voice down. You're going to get us in trouble, Alice said, looking around nervously. Alice's serious tone made Violet chill out a bit, though she was still curious. Fine, fill me in. What's the deal? She asked quietly. Alice gave her a look. You didn't even bother looking up the top 20, did you? Nope. Why would I? It's not my problem. I don't care who they are or what special treatment they get for being bullies. Besides, Violet had been kind of preoccupied with that bizarre dream encounter with Asher. Alice face-palmed. Seriously? She muttered. Violet almost felt sorry for her. But Alice was the one obsessed with the school's social ladder. If it had been anything actually important, Violet wouldn't have cared less.
Wait, that's not the end. You've just had a free taste. Now get the full story on the Pocket FM app, link in description. Check out our next video and playlist, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.